Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging with me on this Friday. So this is an old Bomber crankbait, and I've been deep cranking for 15 years now and really have gotten into it on the Tennessee River in the last 10 years, which is one of the best deep cranking, proving, stomping, learning grounds that there is. And I will say this is when I first started deep cranking, every tournament was won on a 6XD if it was a deep crankbait. So I assumed that if there was one I needed to learn was a 6XD. Now, after a decade of deep cranking, I've realized that some of these older Bomber crankbaits, the fat-free shad, your Series 5 by Strike King, again, crankbait that's been around since the mid-90s, these are really important baits, and if you have them in your box, you can't only not get rid of them, but you should throw them, because the thing about the 6XD that they never told you on TV, the pros holding up the tournaments, never really let out of the bag, was the fact that the main reason the 6XD was so good was because it was a crankbait that they were getting to depths that they had never gotten to before. Now, since then, the 10XD, the 8XD, so we have deep diving crankbaits in those big Magnum plugs that we can get out to 25 feet of water. So we've pretty much covered every depth range with a crankbait. But prior to that, prior to the 6XD, and Kevin Van Dam being one of the only guys to have it, also the introduction of side imaging, learning that technology before everyone else and having the opportunity to, nobody really was saying that, well, these are unpressured fish, these are on shell bars that no one knew existed, and we're getting a very likable lure like a crankbait to the fish that had never seen a lure. And that's a pretty big deal. That's how you dominate. That's how you win tournaments. That's how you go out and catch a lot of fish. Unpressured fish that have never seen a bait, especially a bait that they love, like a crankbait, I mean, come on, you're going to dominate. So after doing this for so long, I've learned that 6XD is a great bait, and I don't need to give it any more accolades than it already has. But it's not just great because it's great. It's great because it was fished for in a place that bass had never seen anything. So for that reason, the Series 5, the fat-free shad, a lot of these older plugs are becoming the better crankbaits nowadays, because a lot of these fish that were being fished for out in that 18 to 24 foot range were easier to graph. Didn't see a whole lot of baits out there, especially crankbaits, and you could really go out there and bust up those schools. Now those schools have already been busted up. Those fish are becoming weary, so looking for them shallower without graphing over them is becoming a pretty big deal. I know where I live, and these shallower, deep diving crankbaits, the ones that run in that 10 to 14 foot range, are my favorite. Strike King, Series 5, 5XD, fat-free shad, you know, your DT16, your DT12, those are going to be more so what I'm throwing with the fishing pressure and everything. So again, if you have these, not only can you never get rid of them, you have to keep them honest. We've got a little bit more deep cranking this year. Hopefully these fish are going to start transitioning off the main river and the creek channels and get around the mouths on those secondary points. There's bait in those areas. These medium to deep diving crankbaits, or the shallower deep diving crankbaits rather, are going to be some of my favorite baits. So again, you can't count out these old baits. 6XD is not the only one that exists. If you're just learning how to deep crank now, you really got to dig deep, find all those other crankbaits you have, give them a shot, because as our technology is advanced, our line is advanced, our rods, reels, everything is getting better. Baits, however, and especially crankbaits, the older ones are sometimes the better ones. So try that, guys. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.